This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, guys. Fine. Good evening once again. Sorry for the slight delay. Okay, so probably I'll spend a couple of minutes initially for the people who have joined today. Right, I will just give a quick overview, walkthrough on what we are going to look in, cover in the course. Okay, so that you will get a introduction about that, and then I'll also probably spend some more time um, on the tools as well. What we are going to learn over the course of this period. I have Dynatrace and AppDynamics and few more tools, which I just wanted to show you so that you will understand really what that you're going to learn. People who haven't registered, who have just joined, right? So that it will be useful for you. And then we will get started with the actual session. Okay. Um, okay. So the objective of this crash course is more in terms of how you can make yourself comfortable in the couple of digital monitoring, a couple of modern day monitoring, right? Probably you, most of you might be part of performance testing, already doing some scripting or executions analysis, and if you wanted to upskill yourself to the next level, or if you wanted to make a baby step into engineering, right, this monitoring is something is going to really useful. And also more in terms of DevOps environment, where you wanted to maybe work on yourself, not depend upon other teams, right? So these things are going to be really really important. And also as well, how easily you can pick up these skills, right? All these things whatever you're going to learn is something is going to be very effective. At the same time, it's not going to take a longer learning curve for you to understand and practice and make use of all these things in your projects. Okay, so that is where we are going to look into all these concepts about client side monitoring, synthetic monitoring, real user monitoring, APM server side monitoring, infra host level monitoring. All these things are all covers the various aspect of your monitoring of your digital apps, at the end user level, at the application level, at the infra level, at the three levels of your end to end monitoring. Okay, so of course it's a crash course, which means it's going to be covered in 5-6 hours. All these topics, it's jam packed, it's going to be jam packed session. But whatever you're going to learn, you'll be able to easily practice on your own in your laptop. All these things are either open source, or all these tools have the trial versions, free versions, which you can install it, use it for at least for a month or two easily. Okay, so from a topic perspective, we're going to start with client side monitoring, client side analysis, client side profiling, which is going to be one of the end user experience monitoring, right? So within that, we will be making use of a couple of APIs, dev tools, uh, APIs available in your browsers, through which we would be able to go and monitor your client side metrics, analyze it. And we will also look into a couple of important optimization technique, which you can use it while you also go and do the client side analysis. Okay, and this is more from your pre-prod performance environment, right? But in the production environment, same end user experience. We do it in two different ways. One is synthetic monitoring, and then your real user monitoring. We will at high level, we'll also show you today about the tools, what you're going to use it, and how it is going to look like. But yes, we are going to use a Dynatrace for synthetic monitoring, creating synthetic scripts, and validating your availability and end user performance through the Dynatrace on agent synthetic monitoring tool. And more in terms of real user monitoring, we'll try to learn how can we make use of real user monitoring tool from a NFR perspective, from defining your NFRs. Okay, and then we will move towards the other end of your application tier. It's a server, right? From a server perspective, we will look into one of our modern way of monitoring your infrastructure, telegraph, inflex, and chronograph tick stack, what we call. And then the AppDynamics for your application monitoring as well. We will have a sample application configured with AppDynamics. We'll run a small test, and we'll go and look into the all the different aspect of monitoring of your Java application. And then as an additional thing, we'll also just look into the JMeter load testing monitoring, right? JMeter, unlike LoadRunner or NeoLoad, doesn't have an UI for monitoring your live test. So we will see how to bring in this Inflex listeners, integrating Grafana with Inflex, and then we'll run a small test to monitor your load test as well. This is what we have planned for from a course perspective over 5 to 6 hours. Okay, so probably I'll just show you a few things at a high level, right? Probably I'll start with AppDynamics. So I have an application in my mission which is running in the Tomcat. Okay, so this is the one which is running in my Tomcat, the sample Java application. Let me go and open that application as well. The local host running in the local host. It's called an e-library application, which I have it in my local, which is running in a Tomcat. Okay, and this Tomcat server is configured with AppDynamics. We'll see into all those things when we go to get into that particular topic. Just wanted to show you this is a sample application which we are going to use it. The WAR file for this will also be available for you to in the Google Drive for you to make it deploy it in your mission, so that you can also configure AppDynamics with that Java application and get the metrics into your AppDynamics. This is an AppDynamics the cloud which is configured with my local Tomcat server JVM Java application, right? So while we're going to learn the AppDynamics, we're going to look into the configuration of how can I connect this AppDynamics cloud with my Tomcat JVM, and then we will look into the different aspects of all these the loads, response times, errors, the flow maps, events, business transactions. Probably I'll go and filter it by last 2 hours maybe. Yeah, all the business transactions, and then tiers and nodes where I can go and look into my JVM level data, the memory, all these things, right? And then database calls, remote services, troubleshooting the response time problem, right? If the response time of my login is very high, how can I know why it is taking more time, right? So all these things is what we will learn from a AppDynamics perspective. Okay, and then more from the synthetic monitoring or your end user experience. I was mentioning about the Dynatrace, right? So let me quickly show you the tool to you as well, so that yeah. So again, these for synthetic monitoring, we'll make use of the Dynatrace one agent, which is available over the cloud. I have registered with my one of my Gmail ID, so that I can go and use it as a trial version for 2 to 3 weeks probably. So there we are going to look into the synthetic option of synthetic monitoring. Okay, here we will go and learn how to create the synthetic scripts. How can we go and create the HTTP monitors? How can I go and create the browser-based scripts, right? So all these options we will look into it, creating a HTTP monitor, creating a browser monitor, and then going and configuring against different locations, frequency, and then once it is configured and it is running, we'll go and learn what to monitor, what is something we will look into in terms of availability or response time. So for the synthetic monitoring, we will be using the one agent, Dynatrace one agent, and for the APM, we'll be using the AppDynamics. And for the so we have seen this APM, we have seen this your Dynatrace, and for the infra level monitoring, so in my mission, I already have downloaded the software for Inflex, Telegraph, and Chronograph tools, which you can also download that link for that will also available in the sheet, as well as I will also upload those software directly as well, so that you don't need to worry about it. So this chronograph, inflex, telegraph, just an extractable. So once it is extracted, we will make use of these tools to go and monitor, to go and install the telegraph agent to collect the data from your OS. We'll configure the InfluxDB to store those data, and we'll use chronograph for visualize those data, right? So all these things we'll be looking into it in detail over the course of 5 to 6 hours, right? So that's a plan. That's a plan for the overall course. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can ask now, and then I'll get started with the introduction to the client-side monitoring today. Maybe a little bit of introduction, but the full-fledged the analysis probably will start it from tomorrow, but we'll get started with the course today itself. Okay, so if you have any questions, guys, on the overall course content, duration, time, anything related to the topic, please feel free to ask the questions. I'll just wait for 30 seconds or a minute if there are any questions, so that I will go on starting the actual session, guys.
Satish, these recordings will be available for us, right? If we want to revise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Every day, once now the session is completed at 9 p.m. Mostly by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, the recordings will be uploaded and access will be given to you, and it will be available for you forever.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no questions, let me just give me a couple of seconds. Okay. So guys, we'll then get started with the client-side monitoring. I'll start with a quick introduction about, let me go to the slide. Okay, fine. So this is a basic server communication, browser server communication. You all might be knowing it, right? When it comes to client-side analysis, just a little bit of introduction about why do we need to do it, what we are going to do it. Right? So normally, when you open a browser and then go and launch Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, whatever websites, right? There is going to be a request that is going to send to the server, and the server is going to process it, and then it is going to send back the response, right? Traditionally, we are using those JMeter or load runner to capture this request and response, and then we go and run those load tests, where it is just going to keep on sending those requests concurrently, putting a load on the server, and then from a response time perspective, we measure those request and response round trip. Right? But your all these tools doesn't going to mimic the actual browser simulation. Right? It is not going to open the browser. It is not going to get the response and then pass through those response, and then it is going to paint the response, and the actual end user experience is not something going to be measured using a traditional load testing way. Okay. Think that you open your Amazon.com and you hit Amazon.com in your browser. You're not worried about whether the server is going to process it fast, whether your DB is going to do it, do your work fast. All you be looking for is how fast I can get the content in my browser. That is what, as an end user, we expect, right? We're not worried about whether the problem is going to be there in the server or DB or network. We don't worry about it. So, from an end user perspective, it is going to be a complete end-to-end response time, and that is what we might not get it when we're going to do just a load testing alone. Yes, of course, we need the load testing to be done to make sure your server side is validated, server side is working fine. But from an end user perspective, it is very important to validate the end user response time as well on along with your load testing, right? It's going to be along with the load testing. So just not that we are going to move away from load testing or the traditional way of doing it. We need that for sure. On top of that, along with that, you need to validate your end user experience as well. Why? As I mentioned here in the slide, browser experience is not equal to load testing tool results. Your number of requests, the page size of your functionalities of your web page, right? It can easily impact your end user experience under the slow network. Okay, so it is very important to go and optimize your number of requests, your page size, so that even under the slow network, your page is going to perform optimally. That is why we need to definitely look into a couple of important client-side metrics to optimize it as much as possible. And then your first user versus repeated user, what is the behavior of your browser when you're going to repeatedly use your application versus first user. Okay, so all these reasons is why we need to go and measure your client-side analysis. And how are we going to do it? Two things, right? One, in isolation. Just open the browser without any load on the server, navigate through your different pages, and we're going to measure the important your client-side metrics. Number one. Second is under load, right? When you're going to have a load testing going on, do the same measurement so that you know exactly your server is under load. What is my end user experience? These are the two approach or two scenarios of the client-side testing what we need to do. Okay, fine. So I'll just give a quick overview on how are we going to approach it. Okay, we will go to use a Chrome browser to navigate through your URLs. And while we navigate through the URLs, we are going to do two things. Test as a first time user, test as a repeated user. Okay, so you launch the page, and then I'll show you all this thing anyway when we are going to do it practically in the browser. I'm just going to giving an introduction about what is our approach towards client-side analysis. Okay, so we want to monitor the key metrics like your load time, your page size, number of requests, your time to first paint, time to first contentful paint. All these things are different metrics that we capture as a first time user. Okay, and then as a repeated user, we go and do the similar thing again for the same metrics, for the same page. We go and capture all these metrics with cache as well, right? So what we'll do is we will go and get this kind of a table as an output. I have page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and then I have these metrics, right? I have a load time, I have a time to first paint, I have time to control paint, your page size, all these metrics, I will go and capture it. Okay, so before I go and do all these things using a developer tool, I will probably spend some time on these APIs as well before I go to the Chrome and do all these things. Okay, there are two APIs available in the browser for getting the performance metrics. One is going to be your paint APIs. Okay, so the paint APIs, to put it very simple, right? If you see this diagram, you have a web page where you're going to launch your any site the first time, right? You're going to hit a submit button. That's where your 0 second starts. From there, how fast your first pixel, first paint, first, it could be a header, it could be an image, it could be just a layout change, a color change, whatever it is. First pixel, how fast it is going to get painted is called the first paint. It's more from a psychological perspective, Google thinks if you can, is it fine now? I got a call in between, so it got the audio got disconnected. So psychologically, Google says that if you can make your first paint as soon as possible, as fast as possible, you would be able to make your user to stay in that web page without going to the another tab. So we have a tendency, right? We go and launch something, and then while it comes up, we go to another tab and browse something else, right? Say for example, if you are going to book a ticket, it's urgent, and if you go and launch some travel site, right, and it shows you a blank page for 500 milliseconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, your tendency would be to go to another site and go and launch the site and book it, right? So all these things, I mean, this is a very small thing, a psychological thing, but when it comes to business, when it comes to revenue, these things make a huge impact. That is what the statistics says. So how fast you can have your first paint, you will make your user to stick to your application, stick to your page without moving to the another tab. Similarly, how fast you can make your content to be available in the page. Content could be again an image, it could be some labels, text fields, banners, so that again the user will know that okay, some content is getting loaded. Let me look into it. So how fast your first paint can get loaded, how fast your first contentful paint can get loaded. Okay, those are two important metrics. Not really from the our SLAs, because for our performance SLA we need a full page to be loaded. Okay, but the first paint and first contentful paint is going to be more important from a business perspective. So we also go and track this, though we don't go and tag it with the SLA, but we track it and have it noted in our report, so that the project team can note, they can can take a note of it and improve it as well. Okay, so this paint API is something is not going to be available for you explicitly. Let me go and open it. Okay, so let me go and open the site, flipkart.com. Okay, so I'll go and clear the data. This is a developer tool. If you've already used it, you might know it. You can do Control Shift I, or you can go to the more tools and then to the developer tools. Okay, so here when I want to do a first time, I'm going to turn on this disable cache. Okay, I'm just going to hit this flipkart.com, clear it. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the other data, other metrics here. I'll just go and explain you the paint APIs alone today. Okay, I'll just clear it. So the paint timings, right? As I said, it is not available directly for you to take it from the network tab. Okay, so it is available over as an API. You need go to console, okay, and then type the command performance.get entries by type of paint. This is a paint API or a JavaScript which you can execute it from the your command line or in the console. Okay, so if you expand it, you're going to have two metrics: first paint and then the first contentful paint. Okay, so if you see here, the first paint says 2118 milliseconds, and your first contentful paint is 2000. It's the same thing. In some cases, your first pixel could be a content itself, right? So in that case, both could be same. In some cases, first paint will come earlier, and then first contentful paint will come a little later. Okay, so for you to get these two metrics, let me go to that table. for you to get these two metrics, TTFP and TTCP, right? You go to your flipkart.com or any other site, right? Go to the console, launch the site, and then type this command, performance.get entries type by paint, and then you'll get two metrics, first paint and first contentful paint. Okay, so again, this paint API is available only with Chrome or with Google. The main reason is Google thinks that this is very important, more from a business perspective, more from revenue perspective, and even your Google search engine, the rating of your sites also indirectly depends upon these metrics as well. Google calculates these as you as the people use the sites in production. Okay, so that's the reason it's very important to have this TTFP and TTSP very low. One is to get good rating by Google, to make it available in the search engine in the top 5, top 10 pages. So it is good to go and track these two metrics. Okay, that is called your first your paint APIs. Okay, and the navigation API, let me not go there now. Other metrics, right? I have load time, I have page size, I have the number of requests. Okay, these are the other metrics I would be interested in from a client side perspective. Obviously, load time, the what we see here in this here, right? The fourth one, the fully loaded time. That is the one we will target against SLA, saying whether the response time is good or bad, whether it is within the SLA or not. That's load time is what we would be more interested, and will be capturing it as well. Right? That load time will come from your network tab. Right? If you go to the network tab, and if you see the last value load, which is 4.55 second, right? This is a load time which you will capture, and then you will be using it in your report. Okay, so this load time, this DOM content load time, comes from the navigation API. This API, which is available in all the browser, be it Chrome or Firefox or Safari, right? As per your World Wide Web Consortium, these navigation API has to be available in every browser, so that these metrics will be made available for the end user. Okay, so if you come here, this is a load time called 4.55. There is a finish time. Finish time we will never look into it, because it will keep increasing because of the analytical calls, right? It never finishes actually. Okay, you have DOM content loaded, and then you have load time. Okay, so all these both the load time, DOM content load time, you can probably use it for the reporting, and then you have your number of requests, page size in the bottom, right? If you see here, there are two page size, 1.1 MB transferred and 5.1 MB resources. Okay, so I'll tell you these two things, how it is going to make an impact. Okay, so one is the transferred over the network. It says 1.1 MB transferred over the network, and then 5.1 MB loaded by the page. Okay, when the server is going to send the page, it will go and compress it. All the resources will be compressed. Similar to you go and compress your files when you go to send it to the email, right? You'll go and zip it and send it, and then the user will download and unzip it. Similarly, server will also zip it and send it to the browser, and browser will unzip it, and then it will use it. That is why you see as 1.1 MB transferred over the network, which means server is sending 1.1 MB, and then when it has been used by the browser, it is 5.1 MB. From a performance perspective, we would be more worried about, more interested about what is the size that is getting transferred, because more the size, more time it is going to get transfer over the network, right? So this is a page size which we will be noting it down or reporting it in your reports, your client side report, right? The page size is the one which is going to come from your this one, not the this 1.1 MB, not the 5.1 MB. Okay. One of the a quick tip for you, right? If both the size are equal, if your page size transfer to the network and the page size transfer over the actual page size is going to be equal, then it means there's some performance problem, or the compression is not done properly by the developer or by your server team. Okay, so if both these file size is equal, one which is transferred and the actual file size are equal, then we need to highlight that to the your development team. Okay, I'll also, when I'm going to talk about the optimization, I'll explain this little detail about the compression, but this is one of the quick tip for you. Okay, so from a reporting perspective, we will use only the this 1.1 MB, and then the number of requests, right? It is 78 request is what we will note it down in the number of requests. So load time, it will come from the last value, load is 4.55, and then time to first point, time to contentful point, we will take it from the console here, and then your page size, we will get it from the this over the network. And then this is without cache, right? And I'll just go and enable the cache and clear it out, and again I'll go and do the same navigation, note down the all the same metrics, your load time, your page size, and the number of requests, so that I know that how efficiently they have implemented the cache. Your page size should come drastically down with the cache. Now if you see, it's 344 KB. Earlier it was 1.1 MB. It is now 344 KB, right? So that is something you need to note it down in the report. But as you note it down, when you want to raise some defects or issues, you need to compare the page size with cache and without cache. Okay. So these are the 4 metrics. You will go and capture it with cache and without cache, and then if the response time is going to be more than your SLA, like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, you can highlight it. Similarly, the page size doesn't come, say for example here, it from 1.5 MB, it is came down to 342 KB. From 5 MB, it is 2 MB. Everything else is good apart from menswear, the third one, where it's from 5 MB, it came down to only 4 MB, which means ideally maybe the caching is not done properly. You need to go and highlight it. Okay, so we'll highlight the load time if it is not within the SLA. We'll highlight the page size. If the page size is very high, that is as well we'll highlight it. But relatively, if it is not going to come down with cache, that as well will go and highlight it. Okay, I'll just take a pass here, guys. I don't want to go in detail because there are 3-4 people didn't join today. But from tomorrow, it is going to be completely 1 hour from 8 PM to 9 PM. So I don't want to go further so that the other people will not miss much in the class. So I'll just take a pass here. We will continue tomorrow again in detail about these metrics. I'll talk about the navigation APIs, and we'll go and talk about the optimization also. We'll go and probably capture these metrics as well live for a couple of pages tomorrow. I'll just take a pass. If you guys have any questions, yeah, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can probably ask the question as well by unmuting it.
Yeah, Satish, this is Meenakshi. Can you just please repeat, like from where did you note down this page size with cache and without cache?
If you go down in the network tab, right, you have the I'm highlighting this, right, 345 KB transfer. This is the page size.
Yes.
You will note it down with cache and without cache.
Okay, so when you say that this 345 has been transferred from server, so this is with cache.
This is with cache. Yes, yes. If I go and disable the cache, will launch it again, then the page size is going to be whatever that is coming up here, like 1 point whatever MB. That is the page size with cache. Sorry, without cache.
Okay. Okay. So after enabling and disabling, both the time I have to run and I have to note down this transferred metrics.
Correct. Correct. You're right.
Satish here, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So I can see here 74 or 70, 75 embedded resources for one request. So all this put together coming with a compression, or each one is compressed one? Because in the waterfall model, I can see one is happening here, one other is happening over time.
See, when you talk about the compression, right? You need to go to individual resources and check whether it is compressed or not. Okay. Every resource is an individual resource. Everything would be compressed. When you say compressed, right? It is not that everything, all the resources are going to be part of one zip. No. I'm not going to say this JS, 5JS is going to get included in a JS. Included one file. No. This particular JS itself, right? One particular JS resource will be compressed. If you go and check, I'll talk about the content encoding. There's something called content encoding equal to BR, right? So this tag has to be enabled in your server. So when it is going to send this one JavaScript, it will compress the JavaScript itself. Okay, it is not that it is going to put all the JS together into one zip file. No, that is the example what I gave. The zip file is for you to understand, but it is not going to put every JS or every CSS into one zip. No, every resource will be compressed.
Okay, understood, Satish.
Yeah. Okay. Fine, guys. If you have any more questions, also please note it down. Tomorrow, first thing tomorrow when we start, we can also go over those questions. Just because there are
Satish, yeah, sorry
yeah,
to
go ahead.
interrupt. Can you just expand this size column and the next column before waterfall that comes?
Yeah.
Size and the later one. It starts from T. Okay, the time. Okay, this time is the response time, right? In milliseconds.
Correct. The individual resource response time.
Okay, and this individual request size, like how much that KB and everything, right?
Correct.
So this size refers to the transferred one.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what has been given below is the average of all the requests, it relevant to this particular page.
Summation of all the requests. It's an addition. Summation. It will sum up all the resources, and that's the size you will see it in the bottom. 1.1 MB.
Okay, that means this 228 to 24.57, everything has been summed up and then it's been returned.
Yes.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah.
What is 5 MB resources, Satish? 5.1 MB something. 5.1 MB something is there, resources at bottom. What is that?
As I said, right? When server sends you, it will compress it, but your browser will uncompress it. The uncompressed file size is 5.1 MB.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Say for a JavaScript, when it is going to send it over the network, it would be say 100 KB. When it is going to uncompress it, right, your browser, it will be a 150 KB.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about like monitoring with AppDynamics and Dynatrace. So all that you are just showing the web page monitoring. How about the API monitoring? Any kind of performance bottleneck issue monitoring?
Yeah. See that with AppDynamics, we are going to look into the application performance monitoring more in terms of your JVM metrics, diagnosing your response time problems. From AppDynamics, it is going to be completely on your server-side monitoring and server-side diagnostics of your response time. Okay. From Dynatrace, it is going to be more of a synthetic monitoring, your availability monitoring and your response time end-user monitoring for the synthetic monitoring. With the Telegraph and InfluxDB, it is going to be more of a infra level monitoring of your CPU, memory, disk utilization. So that is completely different what you're going to see with the Dynatrace or AppDynamics or other tools.
Okay. So how do you correlate like a performance bottleneck when we put the load on JMeter? How do we correlate? I mean, is it possible doing in one day session? Like the end goal is to show the performance bottleneck, right? So how is it possible in one?
See, identifying the performance. Yeah, okay. So we will run a small load test against a sample application. Okay, the EW application, and then we will look into the metrics in JMeter. We'll also go and troubleshoot if there are any high response time. We'll try to go and troubleshoot that in the your APM tool as well. We'll do that exercise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The total course is going to be 6-7 hours, right?
Yeah, 5-6 hours. Yeah, 6 to 7 hours. Yeah, anywhere between 5 to 7 hours. 7 hours.
Okay.
Yes, Satish, I have one more here. So you are going to discuss two APIs from the performance tab, like Paint APIs and Navigation APIs. Are there any other APIs so that they are useful for performance point of view? And can we get the documentation for that? Can we get what are the features of it?
I will send you no, not the slide, but a few documents related to this. I'll be able to upload it to the right.
But my expectation is that so we need to automate getting the client side metrics also using the JS file, and they need to be written to the CSV or somewhere, and they need to be shown on a tabular or a graph format. So that's what my expectation is. So at least if I know if I'm having some API understanding, I can write a JS and write them into the CSV.
Yeah, I can provide you some additional information on how to automate, though it is not part of the course, Srinivas,
Yes.
but I can provide you references on how to achieve that automation.
Well, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Fine, guys. So we will pass here. We will continue tomorrow where we left today. So from tomorrow, it is going to be we'll start on time. We'll probably wait for just 1 minute, 2 minutes, not more than that, so that it will be a proper 1 hour session from tomorrow, guys. Okay. So yeah, thanks for your time today, and we'll meet again tomorrow.
Thank you, Satish.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
This conference will now be recorded.